यशोधनन्दना व्रजजनरञ्जन यशोधानन्दना व्रजजनरञ्जन यमुनतीरावनचारी यमुनतीरावनचारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोधानन्दना व्रजजनरञ्जन यशोधनन्दना व्रजजनरञ्जन यमुनतीरावनचारी यमुनतीरावनचारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा प्रभुपाद 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 जय प्रभुपाद जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय प्रभुपाद जयं विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शतश्री श्रीमद् ऐसी भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी प्रभुपाद की अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की नामाचार्य हरिदास ठाकुर की प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद की श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ Shama Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhana Ki, Shri Vrindavan Dhama Ki, Mayapur Navadip Dhama Ki, Ganga Mai Ki, Yamuna Mai Ki, Bhakti Devi Ki, Tulsi Maharani Ki, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande Hari. Hare Krishna. So this morning we are continuing the reading of Srila Prabhupada's Leela, I'll Build You a Temple, the Juhu story by Giriraj Swami. We are almost at the end of the book, recounting Srila Prabhupada's last days practically in Vrindavan. We've been given, 18 pages, 19 pages to go through. And we'll comment on a few points that strike us about this section. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. So this is Vrindavan, the final journey, chapter 4. And we're actually in the last day of Srila Prabhupada's manifest pastimes here. Bharadwaj wrote in his diary, quote, around noon there came another attack. In deadly silence, the Kaviraj examined the pulse. Bhakti Charu was standing by with medicine, ready to perform his duty. The Kaviraj listens to the heart, checks the pulse again, looks up with a hopeless face, shakes his head. No use of medicine. Fear grips my throat. I began chanting praise to Lord Nrsingadev. Shaking voices respond. We chant loudly. The doctor sits slumped in a chair with a hopeless blank look. Many are crying. Some are still hopeful. Everyone chants Hare Krishna loudly. Prabhupada moans and waves his hands in unknown, mysterious expressions, unquote. So Bharadwaj Prabhu is a very old disciple of Srila Prabhupada, very wonderful kirtanya, whose kirtan Srila Prabhupada really appreciated. And in the last weeks and days, he was often requested to chant kirtan for Srila Prabhupada's pleasure. By afternoon, Prabhupada had fallen into an internal state of consciousness, and devotees placed tulsi leaves and Yamuna water by his head. The room resounded with kirtan, and the doors were opened to everyone. The room was packed, young, old, men, women, all were allowed to be with Prabhupada and express their love. Several times Pishima asked, Prabhupada, have you eaten anything? But he did not respond. She poured a few drops of Ganges water in his mouth. Ban Maharaj, Krishnadas Babaji, Ananda Prabhu, and Prabhupada's godnephew Narayan Maharaj soon arrived and sat on benches on either side of the bed, observing his consciousness. When Narayan Maharaj spoke in Prabhupada's ear, Prabhupada did not respond. But when Bhakti Charu told him that Maharaj and others were present, he slowly raised his left hand to his head in salutation and started crying. Prabhupada's godbrothers ventured that his attacks were simply the moving of the airs in the body. He was in perfect consciousness, they said, and his time for departure had not yet come. After a while, all of them, except Ananda Prabhu, left, promising to return the minute devotees called. The Kaviraj said that Prabhupada had only 2 or 3 hours left. Pujaris brought tulsi flower garlands from Krishna Balaram and placed them on the pillow around Prabhupada's head. The devotees continued chanting and praying. There was nothing else we could do. When a final attack came at 3 p.m., Prabhupada rubbed his hand quickly back and forth across his heart. Upendra massaged his heart. Tamal Krishna sat holding his feet, and for the next 4 hours, Prabhupada was peaceful. I was at the head of the bed, wishing I could have one last chance to serve Prabhupada in his bodily form. Suddenly he threw back his arm, and I was able to touch his hand and squeeze it gently. He had fulfilled my desire. I was grateful, satisfied, even amidst the overwhelming sorrow. As Prabhupada's departure grew closer, the kirtan, led by Bharadraj, became more and more intense, sung, as Shakti Mata later recalled, quote, in a kind of unusual chorus of 2 parts, in a way that we never sang before. Some devotees were singing Jaya Prabhupada, while others were chanting the Maha Mantra, and somehow the two blended together in the most perfectly beautiful way. We don't sound like this, I thought. This isn't coming from us. It was like the room had no ceiling, like all the bricks and beams had dissolved and the whole room was open in a direct current to the spiritual world, as Lord Krishna's messengers came for Srila Prabhupada. Unquote. At 7:25 p.m., Prabhupada opened his eyes and moved his lips, as if speaking, Hare Krishna. Then his jaw dropped, his complexion darkened, and he went still. The Kaviraj took Prabhupada's pulse and held a cotton swab to his nostril. There was no breath. Quote, our beloved Srila Prabhupada had departed, Tamal Krishna wrote in his diary. He had been surrounded by his loving disciples, chanting the holy names of Krishna, lying peacefully on his bed in Raman Reti, Vrindavan, the sacred land where Krishna and his friends used to sport. His head was pointing toward the deities of Krishna Balaram, his forehead decorated with chandan, and a large tulsi leaf with photos of them and Radha and Krishna, and pictures of Lord Nrsingadev and Prabhupada's Guru Maharaj nearby. A volume of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita laid beside his pillow. Holding tulsi in his right hand, he had departed and returned to the lotus feet of Krishna, from whence he had come. It was 7:25 p.m. on Gaura Chaturthi Titi, the 4th day of the light half of the month of Kartik, 5 minutes after the beginning of the Amrita Yoga, the most auspicious time of the day. 7:25, Bharadraj wrote in his journal, Prabhupada enters my heart in a flood of tears. The sun of the world has set. The shelter of the world has entered Vaikuntha. Harinam continues on and on. I think a few days after this, Bharadraj Prabhu came to the manor, right, Maharaj? And also for the benefit of the devotees who couldn't come to Vrindavan, in much detail described the entire last weeks of Prabhupada's Prabhupada's passing away. The room was filled with crying and wailing. The kirtan was going wild, with devotees chanting Hare Krishna and Jaya Prabhupada. Pishima, weeping piteously, went to the foot of Prabhupada's bed, lifted the chadar, and placed his feet on her head. Then she took the dust from them and smeared it on her head and eyes. Other devotees followed, clutching Srila Prabhupada's lotus feet. Most of the devotees were then asked to leave, and Upendra wiped Prabhupada's body and decorated it with Vaishnava tilak markings and dressed him in fresh clothes. Devotees sat Prabhupada up, crossed his legs, and secured him to his palanquin. Bhavananda closed his jaw, which had remained opened, and devotees tied it shut with a cloth around his head. Narayan Maharaj came, garlanded Prabhupada, and discussed with Tamal Krishna and Bhavananda what should be done. Then we carried Prabhupada on his palanquin into the temple amidst the blowing of conch shells and beating of mridangas and kartals. He was brought before each deity, then around the temple 3 times, and again before Krishna and Balaram. Then we circumambulated his body 4 times with kirtan, and finally placed the whole palanquin on his Vyasasan. By Prabhupada's grace, even amidst the overwhelming feeling of sorrow, I was surprised to find myself experiencing a sort of ecstasy. Narayan Maharaj, Krishnadas Babaji, Ananda Prabhu, and many of Prabhupada's disciples led kirtan and prayers throughout the night, while we sat, as we had so often, at Srila Prabhupada's lotus feet, gazing at his divine form. Narayan Maharaj began with Ye Anilo Prema Dhana, Narottam Das Thakur's song for departed Vaishnavas, while Omkar performed arati and devotees offered Prabhupada flowers. Krishnadas Babaji sang in the middle of the night, and Ananda Prabhu led Mangal Arati. What I really appreciated about this description when I first read it was how detailed it is and descriptive. And when you go to Vrindavan and you walk through the temple, it's much easier to visualize the whole proceeding from Prabhupada's room into the temple before the deities. It creates a very vivid picture than I've ever experienced before. That morning, the residents of Vrindavan awaited their last darshan of the great Acharya of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, who had spread Vrindavan's glories throughout the world. At 6:30, the Goswamis of the 7 main temples arrived to escort Prabhupada's divine form to their respective deities. He was sitting straight up, legs crossed, wearing his hat and chadar, in his flower-decorated palanquin, covered with garlands offered by disciples the night before. Narayan Maharaj led kirtan as we brought Prabhupada into the courtyard, again circumambulated his body 4 times, and began our procession with uproarious chanting Maha Sankirtan. Brajavasis came out of their homes and shops to watch, standing on steps and balconies, and alongside the road, calling out Jaya Prabhupada to honor Vrindavan's favorite son, most famous saint and international ambassador. All these hundreds of people came from nowhere, Rajashekhar recalled. I couldn't figure how everyone had heard about the procession, or even how they had heard that Prabhupada had left. I had never seen Vrindavan in such a mood. Everyone came out to pay homage. Wherever we went, the rooftops were packed. As we went from one place to the other, Bhagavat remembered, people were performing arti, offering flowers and offering prasad. All of Vrindavan was displaying their love and affection for Srila Prabhupada. Tamal Krishna, along with many of us, was openly weeping. As we approached each temple, the head pujari would come out to receive Prabhupada, and the kirtan would rise to a crescendo, with Narayan Maharaj singing, Jaya Madan Mohan, Jaya Radha Damodar, Jaya Radha Raman, glorifying each deity, and then Jaya Prabhupada. Even submerged in an ocean of grief, we devotees also felt proud to be disciples of such an illustrious, exalted, empowered Guru. The parikrama lasted 3 hours, concluding when we returned to the Krishna Balaram temple. We brought Prabhupada to the Samadhi site near the front of the property, and Upendra and Bhavananda undressed him, leaving only his kopan, loincloth, and placed him on banana leaves. First Narayan Maharaj, then Krishnadas Babaji, then Ananda Prabhu poured Yamuna water over him. And Tamal Krishna then took the conch shell and, allowing all the devotees to touch it, poured water over Prabhupada's body many times. The personal servants dressed Prabhupada in new silks and in a new sacred thread. Narayan Maharaj took a Tulsi Manjari and with Chandan wrote the Samadhi mantra on Prabhupada's chest. He, Ananda Prabhu, Tamal Krishna, and Bhakti Churu descended the 8 feet into the Samadhi pit, at the bottom of which lay a pure white marble slab. They performed pujas, with Ananda Prabhu chanting the mantras while guiding the movements of Tamal Krishna's hands. Bhavananda and Upendra lifted Prabhupada into Tamal Krishna's arms, and they placed him in a sitting position and offered arati. The devotees above, who had been chanting and blowing conch shells, then offered pushpanjali, throwing thousands of flowers upon Prabhupada's form, and as Prabhupada had instructed, Tamal Krishna kept some to be taken to Mayapur for his Pushpa Samadhi. Shri Shri Radha Radhanath ki, Srila Prabhupada ki. Devotees lowered brass buckets of salt, and we watched as Prabhupada's form disappeared under the salt, being placed around his body, until all we could see was a golden patch that was the top of his head, and then nothing. As we passed buckets of earth to fill the rest of the Samadhi, and with tears in my eyes and my arms trembling, I lifted each shovelful of soil. I reflected that this might be the last personal service I offered to Srila Prabhupada's Vapu. Narayan Maharaj asked for a long bamboo stick to place above Prabhupada's head to mark the place, and after reaching ground level, the devotees built up an area about 3 feet square above where his body was situated, and the bamboo pole was extracted. Narayan Maharaj broke the bamboo pole into 3 pieces, put one on either side, and tore some of his upper cloth to attach the 3rd piece to the 2 sides from behind, creating an easel for Prabhupada's photo. The area was covered with fresh cow dung and then saffron silk, and another saffron cloth was suspended above on 4 bamboo poles, with colorful cloth flags at each corner. Tulsi plants were placed on either side, and Prabhupada's preferred photo of himself, chanting japa on the lawn of the Bhaktivedanta Manor, was propped on the raised ground. Pradyumna offered the bhoga prepared by Ayodhyapati and his team, and then a full arati. Bharadraj led the kirtan, and we all circumambulated 4 times. You may notice the circumambulation was done 4 times in various places. Sometimes we think it's meant to be 3 times, but it's actually 4 times. When the cloth covering was removed from the Bhoga offering, Tamal Krishna returned to Upendra and said, "Look, Upendra, in his first offering in his Samadhi, Srila Prabhupada got his 2 favorite foods, laglu and kachoris, a sweet and a savory." In a mood of complete and utter surrender, we offered obeisances at Srila Prabhupada's lotus feet. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin iti namine. I offer my respectful obeisances unto His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who is very dear to Lord Krishna on this earth, having taken shelter at His lotus feet. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Our respectful obeisances unto you, O spiritual master, servant of Saraswati Goswami. You are kindly preaching the message of Lord Chaitanya Dev and delivering the Western countries which are filled with impersonalism and voidism. Srila Prabhupada had instructed us to give 100 rupees to the main temples in Vrindavan, so that after his departure they would do a Raj Bhoga offering on his behalf. They brought the Mahaprasad to the Krishna Balaram temple, and from there devotees took it to Bhagaji's house. Bhagaji was Srila Prabhupada's very close friend in Vrindavan, and who helped Prabhupada in many ways managing the Vrindavan temple. One of the Mahants, like leading managers, of the Radha Damodar temple, where Prabhupada had resided before going to America, and where he had kept his rooms even after his return, came to Prabhupada's house with Mahaprasad. As I watched, the Mahant, Gaurachand Goswami, who was blind, started banging his cane on the bricks around the house and exclaimed, "Where is Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada? Swami Maharaj, are you there? I want to see you. Where are you? I know you are there. Swami Maharaj, I know you are there." Considering what had been a mixed relationship between Prabhupada and the Radha Damodar Goswamis, I was touched. The caste Goswami's affection for Prabhupada had prevailed. So many people had joined together in their love and respect for Srila Prabhupada. But even after his departure, the controversy over the Govardhana Parikrama continued, and feelings remained strong on both sides. I couldn't determine who had been right, and the question persisted in my mind. So some days before this, Srila Prabhupada had expressed a very keen desire to go on Govardhan Parikrama. And he had engaged Lokanath Swami and Hansadutta Prabhu Swami at the time to arrange all of this, the Govardhan Parikrama. And they were very excited, got everything together, the bullock carts, made as comfortable as is possible an arrangement for Srila Prabhupada's parikrama around Govardhan. But Srila Prabhupada's immediate assistants, Tamal Krishna Goswami, Bhavananda Prabhu, Bhakti Charumaraj and others, they felt that this would be fatal to Prabhupada to have to go out on parikrama. So there was this tense situation between two groups of Srila Prabhupada's disciples, whether to follow Srila Prabhupada's direct instructions or desire, fulfill his desire to go to Govardhan, or to not do it with the mood that this would just kill Prabhupada. it would be too painful, it would be too traumatic, the journey. So eventually Srila Prabhupada conceded to the desires of his immediate servants, his caregivers, and decided not to go on parikrama. But there was tension between the various groups of devotees, feeling that some of them were feeling we should have just followed Srila Prabhupada's desire and not questioned, not allowed our emotions to come to the fore. We should have just taken Srila Prabhupada on parikrama. So this was going on still immediately after Srila Prabhupada had passed away. There were some feelings, some intense feelings between the two groups. So Giraj Maharaj continues, my usual practice had been to chant in Prabhupada's rooms when he was out, and the day after he was placed in Samadhi, I was chanting behind his bed in a small corner by a bookshelf when my eyes fell upon the new volume of Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Volume 2, that had been made for Prabhupada with gold embossing. When I opened it, I happened to land upon chapter 9, entitled Mother Yashoda Binds Krishna. I read a few verses and purports, and then I came to a verse that I felt answered my question. Evam sandarshita hyanga harina bhritya vashyata swavashainapi krishnena yasyedam sheshvaram vashe. Translation. O Maharaj Parikshit, this entire universe with its great exalted demigods like Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, and Lord Indra is under the control of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yet, the Supreme Lord has one transcendental attribute. He comes under the control of his devotees. This was now exhibited by Krishna in this pastime. The pastime was encapsulated in the previous verse, Swamatu Svinnagatraya Vishrashta Kabarashrajha Drishva Parishramam Krishna Kripa Yashit Svabhandane. Translation. Because of Mother Yashoda's hard labor, her whole body became covered with perspiration, and the flowers and comb were falling from her hair. When child Krishna saw his mother thus fatigued, he became merciful to her and agreed to be bound. When I read the verses, I thought, this is what happened. The spiritual master was the transparent medium through which Krishna manifested himself. Of course, in Braja Bhakti, the relationship with Krishna was different. Krishna exhibited Naralila, human-like pastimes, in which there was complete intimacy and freedom between the devotees and the Lord, whereas in the relationship between the disciple and spiritual master, there was always an element of awe and reverence and duty. Still, duty was meant to lead to love. Prabhupada had said to Babaji, Maharaj, just see how much they love me. And during the incident a month before, when the disciples had appealed to Prabhupada to stay longer, which meant him drinking, he had accepted their plea. He had said, this is real affection. When I read the verse, I thought of the two incidents and put them together. In both cases, when the disciples had expressed themselves, we want you to stay, Prabhupada had approved, saying, this is real affection, and just see how much my disciples love me. All the devotees in the controversy had been acting on the basis of their realization, of their devotion for Prabhupada, and Prabhupada had been drawing out our loving feelings and encouraging us to go beyond just following his orders. Following the order was a given. There was no question. To follow the order of the spiritual master was a basic principle of spiritual life, and to disobey his order would be an offense against him and the holy name. So it was not a question of disobeying the order of the spiritual master. It was about developing loving feelings for the spiritual master and expressing them to him. Relating the verse to what Prabhupada had done with us, I saw a parallel between the Damodar Leela and that principle of spontaneous love. Every night during the month of Damodar, Kartik, we recited the Damodar Astakam, including Iti Driks Valila Bir Ananda Kunde, Swagosham Nimach Jantam Akhya Payantam, Tadi Yeshita Gyeshu Bhaktarjitatang, Punak Prematastang, Shatavriti Vande. Translation. By such pastimes he is drowning the inhabitants of Gokula in pools of ecstasy and revealing to those devotees who are absorbed in knowledge of his supreme majesty and opulence that he is conquered only by devotees whose pure love is imbued with intimacy and is free from all conceptions of awe and reverence. To this Supreme Lord, Sri Damodar, whose belly is bound not with ropes, but with his devotees' pure love, I offer my humble obeisances hundreds and hundreds of times. The Damodar Leela was meant to show the special power of pure, spontaneous love to conquer the Lord. The Lord came under its control. Similarly, Prabhupada had brought love out from deep within the recesses of our hearts, and then he had reciprocated with us by coming under the control of that love, by agreeing to our loving requests. I came to the conclusion that it was fine the way it was, Bharadraj later told me. No one was right or wrong. It was all acceptable. In these personal exchanges with Prabhupada, we cannot judge, we cannot fault or praise them. In their reciprocation with Prabhupada, every devotee received a particular gift, a personal gift, an instruction or a lesson from him. In that interplay, which was almost like a dramatic performance, everyone was affected in a very special and personal, intimate way. It was rasa, an exchange of transcendental mellows. Prabhupada's final pastimes had been very deep. Among the disciples around him at the end, it was understood that as the perfect Acharya, he had taught us by his own example how to live in Krishna consciousness, and then he was teaching us how to die in Krishna consciousness. He was showing us how to retire to a holy place and how to be absorbed in hearing the holy names of the Lord. Up until the end, even in his delicate condition, he was trying to push forward the mission and was translating and dictating purports to Srimad Bhagavatam. And as an important part of that final lesson, he was also bringing us to a more intimate level of exchange, where we could express to him our heart's deepest desires. There were natural boundaries between the disciples and the spiritual master, and Prabhupada had always reminded us of those if he felt we were becoming too familiar. But in these final hours, he inspired us to reach out and express our love for him and ask him to stay with us. Soon after Prabhupada left, amidst all the grief and activity, I asked Tamal Krishna whether there was any service I could do. Not now, he said. Later. Later. Why don't you write an article about Srila Prabhupada and his departure, which we can send to our friends and devotees? So, submerged in feelings of deep separation, I began by quoting Srimad Bhagavatam 10:48-26. Kapanditastvad aparam sharanyam samiyat bhakta priya ritaghira suridha kritagyat sarvandadati suridho bhajato bikaman atmanam apya pachapa pachodnayasya. Translation: Who can surrender to anyone other than yourself? Who is as dear, truthful, friendly, and grateful as you? You are so perfect and complete that even though you give yourself to your devotee, you are still full and perfect. You can satisfy all the desires of your devotee and even deliver yourself unto him. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, is the most beloved personality, I wrote, and Srila Prabhupada was just like him. We loved him as the dearest personality, the life of our soul. He came from the spiritual world to tell us of our real life with God, and to show us the kindness of God. He passed so many days with us in this miserable world. He was a divine personality. He was not of this world. He was never of this world. He came to show us God. Everything about him was perfect, and his sublime presence demonstrated perfection in every respect. His beautiful body, his sympathetic face, his compassionate glance, his sweet words, his joyful smile, his appreciative eating, his profound voice, his peaceful resting, his ecstatic dancing, all were perfect from another world. He was everything to us, our mother, father, friend, companion, guide, master, child, life itself. How can we bear being separated from him? How can we tolerate such a loss? Now he has left us here to carry on his mission, waiting for the day when we will again be with him and have the chance to serve him personally. Quote, "You are the life and soul of the inhabitants of Vrindavan. So because you have left Vrindavan, all the servitors of your lotus feet there are suffering. It is as if the lake filled with lotus flowers dried up from the scorching heat of separation from you." Unquote. This is from Nectar of Devotion, chapter 38. Now he has given us a grave responsibility to carry on his movement in separation. He has invested us with his mercy to continue his great work, and we pray that we will be able to accept his divine grace properly. The whole world is feeling his absence, praying for his mercy. He has left a very insufficient vessel to carry that mercy, but I still pray that he will make me fit to carry his divine grace. He was with us for so few years, we hardly had a chance to appreciate him. His every moment with us was full of life, but we were so dull we could not appreciate him, and suddenly he was gone. One devotee said that his appearance was like a flash. He came of his own sweet will to deliver us, and of his own accord he left. But future generations will note how his brief presence changed the entire course of history. I am not elevated enough to think of humanity. Mainly, I think only of myself. But I also felt that his appearance was like a flash, so brief, but it completely altered my life. Actually, he was like Krishna. Krishna's complexion is compared to a cloud, his yellow dhoti to lightning, and his merciful pastimes to rainfall. Similarly, Prabhupada appeared with his swarthy complexion, his saffron dhoti, and his loving exchanges, just to enliven our transcendental senses, to remind us of Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Servitor Godhead. When the lightning flashes across the sky, the whole world is lighted in all directions. The dark night is illuminated, and we see the entire landscape of fields, trees, houses, roads, persons, everything. In this way, his divine presence showed us an entire spiritual realm, giving us a vision of our real life, our real home, a transcendental world with kalpavriksha trees, chintamani stones, surabhi cows, and liberated personalities like him, all engaged in pastimes of love with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. His electric presence sent a current throughout our hearts, and we will never be the same again. When the lightning flashes across the sky, Only a few people may see it, but soon thereafter deep sounds of thunder rumble through the sky, and everyone hears them and feels their vibration. Although only a few may have been fortunate enough to perceive Srila Prabhupada directly, everyone is hearing the thunderous roar of his message. His books, his Vani, the big mridanga, the printing press, rolling on, vibrating everywhere. I will never die, he said. I will live in my books, and you will utilize. A sleeping person may miss a flash of lightning, but the sound of thunder will surely awaken him from his slumber. Similarly, although we were so engrossed in nescience that we could hardly realize who Srila Prabhupada was or what he came to show us, the thunderous vibration of his message of love is reverberating, resounding in our hearts. After the deep reverberation of thunder, the sky opens up and pours down rain. Similarly, Srila Prabhupada's rainfall of mercy is showering down upon the fallen souls. He opened our eyes with light and implanted the seeds of bhakti with transcendental sound. Now his rainfall of mercy is showering down upon us, giving water to the devotional creeper and helping it grow to his lotus feet. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine. I offer my respectful obeisances unto His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who is very dear to Lord Krishna, having taken shelter at his lotus feet. The instructions of the Acharya are always accompanied by his mercy, his helping hand. In May, when Srila Prabhupada was thinking of leaving us, he commented, "The trouble is, you are all like children." When we asked, "If the father leaves the children, is that very good?" he replied, "The children will be provided for." And now we are experiencing how he is arranging for our care and maintenance, although he is invisible to our eyes. "I may be going," he had told us, "but Guru Maharaj and Bhaktivinoda Thakur are there. I have asked them to kindly take care of all of you, my transcendental children. The grandfather always takes care of the children much better than the father, so do not fear." Actually, when he was with us, we were always afraid that he would leave us. This transcendental anxiety increased our attachment for him even more. Quote, "My dear Lord, when we are away from you, we become so anxious to see you again, and there is great misery in our lives. But then, when we do see you, there immediately comes the fear of separation. Under the circumstances, both when we see you and when we do not see you, we are subjugated to different kinds of tribulation." Nectar of Devotion, chapter 33. He made us so attached to him that we cannot imagine living without him. Now we have to follow him back to Krishna. He gave us a taste of nectar, and now he has gone away. What remains for us to do? We can only chase after his footprints, shouting, "Krishna, Krishna." Otherwise, what attraction did we have for Krishna? He came to attract us and free us, and now also he has left us to lead us back to Godhead. Quote, as the swan loves to dive into the water amongst the lily flowers, and would die if he were taken from the water, so we only wish to be with you. Our limbs are being shrunken and faded because you have been taken away from us. Unquote. Nectar of Devotion, chapter 38. When the rain falls, people collect it in pots so that they can later drink and distribute the water to others. In the same way, Srila Prabhupada has made receptacles for his mercy so that others may also drink. He has created Vaishnavas, sannyasis, Brahmins, gurus, all for the sake of distributing his mercy. Quote, Actually, simply by his desire, the entire universe is liberated. This is now a quote from Chaitanya Charitamrita. Quote, whatever a pure devotee wants from his master, Lord Krishna doubtlessly grants, because he has no duty other than to fulfill the desire of his devotee. If you desire the deliverance of all living entities within the universe, then all of them can be delivered, even without your undergoing the tribulations of sinful activity. Whosoever welfare you desire immediately becomes a Vaishnava, and Krishna delivers all Vaishnavas from the reactions of their past sinful activities. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila, chapter 15, 166 to 167 and 169. The rainfall of Srila Prabhupada's mercy is inundating the entire universe. What is the value of our pots? Only to enliven us in devotional service, to free us from material absorption, has He given us so much responsibility for spreading His movement. I think this is what Krishna desires, He told us. I have come to you, but now in this old age, I may be going to Vrindavan, and you will be coming there to me, and be trained up, and we will spread this movement all over the world. Thank you, Srila Prabhupada. We are eternally yours. Hare Krishna. I think we'll stop here, although we still have some pages to go. Would anyone like to share any thoughts, Maharaj?
Because of the communications at that time, we didn't find out, at least in London, till the next day. We found out sometime, I think in the late morning or thereabouts. And so that was the 15th. Then Bharadraj Prabhu came, I think on the 16th, maybe 17th, but anyway, 16th, I think, really. And you mentioned, well, it was amazing. He gave, it was the Bhagavatam class time, but he spoke for probably a couple of hours, just the whole story in detail. And it was amazing, just amazing. The impact and just the general impact in general on everyone of what had happened. Yeah. And at least in England, everything, not everything stopped, but the deity worship carried on. But all the same, there was a very big book distribution program, dozens of devotees, but that stopped for a few days. But then some devotees, and I think Prithu Prabhu was one, but I know some devotees, when they found out that Prabhupada had left, like the next day, because it was 7:25 there, means in England it's after midnight. It's about 5.5 hours difference. Here it was 3.5. But I know some devotees, they just picked up book bags. Yeah, they just picked up book bags and books and just went out and distributed books. Basically, as soon as they heard, they felt that was the best way to sort of deal with the situation. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, I mean, I read this article that Giraj Maharaj had prepared on the request of Tamal Krishna Maharaj quite a few times, but somehow reading it today, it's really so deep and descriptive. And I was also thinking, while reading through all of this, I mean, it brings about two very exceptional points: that how empowered and how transcendently situated Prabhupada is. I mean, it's just phenomenal when you think about the effect, the deep effect he had on his devotees' hearts, that they were moved in such ways in such a short space of time, in his association, to do such amazing things, such surrendered efforts in serving Krishna, and to see their response to Prabhupada's last pastime, his final pastimes, and how much of emotion was coming out, how much of love came out. That really shows Srila Prabhupada's connection with Krishna. Just as Krishna has the ability to bring out such amazing expressions of love from his pure devotees in the spiritual world, well, in Goloka Vrindavan and Gokul Vrindavan, Srila Prabhupada very similarly brought out such expressions of love, even from persons who weren't on the level of Krishna Prema. He drew it out of them, and that must have elevated them in such amazing ways, just to have their hearts opened. So that was Prabhupada's amazing position in relation to Krishna and Krishna's ability. And then also to the devotees who, I mean, we are being faced with now, as His Grace Burijan Prabhu a couple of years ago said, we are now facing the decade of tears for the most devotees in the movement, because many, many senior Vaishnavas, spiritual masters will be passing away. And here we see that Prabhupada passed away, such a huge person, such a huge person in the lives of everyone. But still most of the devotees, a lot of the devotees, well, I wouldn't say most, a lot of the devotees still continued the mission, knowing that that was their way to reciprocate with Srila Prabhupada, to continue the relationship. So we will have, of course it's never something we can fully prepare for, Shri Shri Radha Radhanath Ki. But we will also have the same opportunity, most probably, to somehow dig deep in our relationships with our spiritual mentors, to dig deep in our depth of Krishna consciousness, to whatever level we have developed it through our sadhana and practices and services, to also continue our relationship with Prabhupada, continue our relationship with our spiritual mentors, in a similar way that Prabhupada's disciples, at least those who really grasped what Prabhupada wanted of them, so in a similar way to continue that relationship in a very meaningful way, and not in a mood of some sort of self-indulgence, just to sort of succumb to the depths of grief and separation to the point that we become incapable of doing anything. Because as Maharaj is mentioning here in this amazing essay, this is what Prabhupada wanted. He wanted us to be pots of His mercy, even though we may be unqualified, still become pots of His mercy, and from those pots share Prabhupada's mercy to as many people as possible. I was just now, I thought of something I exchanged with His Holiness Bhakti Chaitanya Maharaj in his room yesterday, looking at the deity of Prabhupada and sort of feeling that maybe Prabhupada should be on the Maharaj's main altar. And then as I said that, I thought to myself, is this some sort of like a like a Mayavad consciousness that trying to equate Prabhupada with Krishna. That thought crossed my mind, because Prabhupada wouldn't be pleased with that. He'd be very disturbed with that type of mood, giving him the same. But in a sense, how can we not offer all glory and all recognition to Srila Prabhupada with the proper understanding, as Maharaj used the phrase, the Supreme Personality of servant to Godhead. That's Prabhupada's position as the most glorious, illustrious representative of Lord Balaram and Lord Nityananda. He deserves that position. We deserve to have him in that position in our hearts, because without his appearance in this world, his activities in this material world, it would be a real damning place with no hope. Hare Krishna. Would anyone else like to share any thoughts? Okay. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki. Srila Prabhupada Leela ki. Go Premanande Hari Hari Bol.